The sun was finally out after days of wind and rain. Mrs. Finch brought the duvet covers up to the roof to air out, then began her meticulous cleaning routine. For her, meals were a simple affair: a small bowl of rice, enough to take her medication, accompanied by a simple soup and some braised meat. Mrs. Finch was famous for her obsession with cleanliness. She would mop the floors, wipe the stairs, and scrub the bathroom several times a day. This very obsession was why people avoided visiting guests, often felt awkward when she started wiping the table or sweeping the floor before they had even left, fearing they had tracked dirt into her pristine home. Just as she pressed the cook button on the rice cooker, Mrs. Finch heard the sound of her husband, Mr. Finch's bicycle at the door. She rushed up from the kitchen but was too late. Her husband had wheeled his bike in, leaving a slight tire track on the tile floor. Mrs. Finch's eyes widened with fury. "Honestly, I spent all morning cleaning, and you ride around enjoying yourself only to come back and make a mess." Mr. Finch looked confused. "Look, the floor drops 3 steps here. This low section is for parking the bike every day. How can it be as clean as the living room?" Seeing her husband not only make a mess but dare to argue, Mrs. Finch shrieked, her voice hoarse, while Mr. Finch, knowing her argumentative nature, quickly retreated to the bathroom to wash his face. As he emerged, his wife was waiting. "Aha! No more excuses this time," she declared triumphantly. "I stood right outside and didn't hear you flush the toilet." "Don't you dare lie, Mr. Finch sighed, pointing back into the bathroom. "Check for yourself. I only wiped my face with a towel. I didn't use the toilet." The small house was once again filled with their squabbling. Realizing she was losing the argument, Mrs. Finch shifted to an old, reliable topic: her husband's past weakness, a topic she had exploited for decades. "You always pretend to be so noble and call your old wife nagging," she said mockingly. "But do you remember? If I hadn't been nagging, you'd have run off following your heart back then, when little Phyllis wasn't even 2. Usually, Mr. Finch would swallow his anger when his wife brought up the past, but today was different. As he grew older, his wife had only become more difficult and unreasonable, not only verbally abusive, but also jealous of every woman he spoke to. "That was over 30 years ago," Mr. Finch said wearily. "If you can't forget it, you're only tormenting yourself." As her husband started up the stairs, Mrs. Finch stamped her foot and yelled, "Get back here. I'm not finished talking, you worthless man." Mouth aching from yelling, Mrs. Finch couldn't swallow her meal. She was enraged that her husband no longer succumbed to her complaints and even dared to talk back. After quickly slurping her soup, she washed the mop to wipe the floor again. Seeing that it was 1 p.m., she knew her husband was napping. She slowly ascended the stairs and paused outside his room. After confirming his steady snoring, Mrs. Finch went to the corner of the hallway, took a knife and a wooden cutting board, and began to chop vegetables loudly, shattering her husband's midday peace. Later, Mr. Finch cooked some noodles with chopped meat and vegetables. He watched the news on TV while waiting for it to cool. The sound of the television immediately brought Mrs. Finch from her room with the electricity bill. "The bill is £240 this month," she stated, cutting him off. "You're the only one here, watching TV until midnight and sometimes even before 6 a.m. You pay £180 of it. And I'll cover the £60 since I use less." As Mr. Finch finished his bowl of noodles, the evening was drawing in. He sat silently, staring out at the balcony, contemplating his life. He had long wanted to end this conflicted existence. Even their only daughter, Phyllis, supported the idea of them living apart, but whenever she suggested it, Mrs. Finch would loudly declare that she would never live apart from her husband. Despite her insistence, Mr. Finch knew his wife no longer loved him. She just didn't want to divorce him for fear he would find a younger woman. They had been effectively separated for a long time. Their constant arguments had led them to a strict, separate meal routine. She cooked for herself, and he cooked for himself. They lived under the same roof, but in separate rooms, with their only interactions being their daily fights. Bored with his room and wary of his wife complaining about the electricity bill, Mr. Finch decided to go for a walk. As he passed the living room, he saw Mrs. Finch meticulously wiping the furniture. He informed her gently, "I'm going for a walk around the lake to clear my head, then I'll turn in." Mrs. Finch stopped, looking him up and down. She sneered, "What's the matter? Is your old wife staying home all day and not clearing the air for you? Do what you want, but you're nearly 70. Don't let the neighbors gossip and say you're acting like a teenager." Mr. Finch slipped on his shoes, pursed his lips, and replied, "You waste your life with cruel words every day. Your life will always be miserable." As Mr. Finch stepped out of the gate, he could still hear his wife's voice echoing from the house, "You worthless man. Go on, leave this house for good, if you dare." Ignoring her, Mr. Finch walked around the lake, feeling a sense of relaxation. Nearing the end of the loop, he called Phyllis. They only had one daughter. He had wanted more children, but his wife had resolutely refused, likely unable to forgive him for his one and only mistake of falling for another woman more than 30 years ago. Time had changed Mr. Finch and his daughter, but his wife remained locked in that moment, living every day with resentment. Phyllis had grown up amidst her parents' conflicts, and as soon as she finished school, she flew south to London to start her life, a different life than the one she had witnessed. Mr. Finch knew his daughter was busy with work and her two small children, but if his and his wife's situation continued, both their lives would be dragged down. After the call with his daughter, Mr. Finch felt lighter. He completed the rest of his walk and headed home. Just as he locked the door, preparing to go upstairs, he heard his wife's voice from the shadows. "This week, the Smith family's son is getting married. They're your side of the family, so you'll have to go. At the end of the year, the Jones family's son is getting married. They're my side of the family, so I will attend." Mr. Finch was exasperated by his wife's cold, calculated division of social duties. Wanting to rest, he simply nodded calmly, "Fine, do as you wish." As he slowly climbed the stairs, he heard his wife's shrill voice again. "Remember to flush the toilet after you use it." Just before 5 a.m., Mr. Finch woke up. To avoid disturbing his roommate, he quietly went to the bathroom, made a pot of tea, and carried it out to the balcony. The morning air was cool and clean. The meticulously tended flower beds were soaked with dew. Soon, the first rays of sun would illuminate their vibrant colors. Before he could pour his tea, his roommate appeared. The two men sat, drinking tea and chatting. Although a bus was scheduled to pick up the residents at 8 a.m. for a trip to Windsor Castle, most of the elderly people were already up, preparing their belongings and medication. Mr. Finch mentally calculated that he had been in the retirement community for exactly 6 months. The decision had been a hard one, requiring long discussions to convince his daughter. Now he felt it was the right choice and that he had aged backward. He no longer had to live alone in a room, constantly fighting his wife's nitpicking. His wife had fiercely opposed the idea at first, but when Phyllis gently explained that they should live apart to preserve their sanity, and faced with her husband's unwavering resolve, she eventually agreed, albeit begrudgingly. To gain her approval, Mr. Finch had agreed to sign the house over to Phyllis, as his wife feared he would bring another woman home if she moved south with their daughter. During their parting, his wife had felt a sense of vindication that they hadn't had to go to court. For her, a divorce at 70 was simply unacceptable. Thanks to the iPad his daughter had bought and configured, Mr. Finch frequently talked to his daughter, son-in-law, and to grandchildren. Last week, Phyllis called to wish him a happy 70th birthday. To ease his daughter's guilt for not arranging a big celebration, Mr. Finch filmed the party the community had organized for him. When his daughter tearfully asked if he was happy at the retirement home, Mr. Finch paused, then told her, "I regret wasting so many years of my life. I should have made this choice a long time ago. Your mother and I were out of love. Living under one roof just made us both more miserable." Seeing his daughter look pensive, Mr. Finch cheerfully encouraged her, "Life is about choices. I have new friends here. And since your mother doesn't have to look at my face all the time, she probably mellow out a bit. Just go with the flow, my dear." The trip to Windsor Castle delighted the residents. They took photos and sent them to their children via a group chat. An older gentleman sitting next to Mr. Finch, named Mr. Hughes, laughed, recalling that he had often taken his politics students to Windsor when he was a teacher. Mr. Hughes, who was also a roommate, confided in Mr. Finch that he had chosen the retirement community because his two successful children were constantly busy with work and long business trips, and he was lonely living alone. In the evening, just after dinner, Mr. Finch saw Phyllis calling on FaceTime and answered. Seeing her father healthy and rosy-cheeked made his daughter happy. After a few pleasantries, Phyllis hesitantly announced, "Mom hasn't been eating or sleeping well lately. I think she misses you. This morning, she suggested moving in with you at the community. What do you think, Dad?" Mr. Finch was taken aback by his daughter's proposal. While he was still contemplating, his wife's face appeared on the screen. Compared to when they parted ways, she looked noticeably older. Instead of her usual nagging, Mrs. Finch gently asked about his health and his life at the community. Touched by her concern, Mr. Finch spoke kindly about his peaceful, carefree life and didn't forget to boast about his morning trip to Windsor Castle. For the first time in many years, the couple spoke softly and affectionately, without any argument. Perhaps distance had made them more forgiving of each other's faults. Feeling happy, Mr. Finch was about to invite his wife to join him at the retirement home when he suddenly saw her eyes widen, and she shrieked like a siren. "Phyllis, where are you? Look at your old man, up to his old tricks again, bringing a woman into the room." Mr. Finch jumped and looked behind him. It was Mrs. Hill, nearly 80, who had come to borrow some eye drops and had accidentally walked into the frame. Hard of hearing, she hadn't heard Mrs. Finch's screaming. Despite his explanations and his daughter's pleas, Mrs. Finch continued to verbally abuse him with her usual phrases. "I knew it. The worthless old man is starting his philandering again. No wonder he was so desperate to live there alone." Waiting for Mrs. Finch to calm down and catch her breath, Phyllis took the iPad back. Mr. Finch suddenly felt a flush rise to his face. His blood pressure must have spiked from his wife's vicious words. After drinking the herbal tea he had brewed earlier, he whispered to his daughter, "If you love me and want me to live a long life, take good care of your mother. Don't move her here."